Welcome to another episode of Espressos with Napoleon. Today we find ourselves in downtown Phoenix, which has had the privilege of hosting the Super Bowl twice. It's been amazing to witness the growth of the area over the past 14 years. Since the 2015 Super Bowl, downtown Phoenix has seen a tremendous rise in its restaurants and bar scene with a whopping 78 new additions. As an avid espresso enthusiast, I always look for the perfect cup, and Serafina never disappoints. Their coffee roasters fill the air with a satisfying hum, and the coffee notes are bold and rich. The local art scene draws in a diverse mix of people from college students to business professionals, all enjoying the vibrant atmosphere just steps away from their light rail. Today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Aaron Edwards, a mortgage consultant at Barrett Financial. Our conversation centered around home ownership through VA benefits. We met at Wesley Boland Memorial Park Plaza, located in downtown Phoenix in front of the State Capitol building. Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Espressos with Napoleon. I am here with a good friend and business partner, Aaron. How are you today, sir?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Aaron is a loan officer here in the Valley. And tell us a little bit about yourself, who you work for.
Sure. Yeah. So I currently work for Barrett Financial Group, a part of the QTF team. And background's in banking. And now I'm a broker. And the world's a little bit different now.
Broker. So I and a lot of my clients, or I should say some of you guys, we've worked with different types of lenders. We have brokers, we have loan officers, mortgage officers. Like what?
Sure.
What are the differences? Explain to us, what separates a broker from a LO, or loan officer?
Well, and that's kind of the world, right? There's a lot of different ways and iterations, and they all essentially mean the same thing with a couple of different differences. In this case, banker versus broker, it's a really unique relationship. So think big bank. That's typically what you would think of when you think banker first. Mm-hmm. But a banker also could work for a private lender or a public lender that lends their own money. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the banker role. But the broker side is really unique in that I'm in a position to kind of reach a broader range of buyer. So that means, think about the average everyday person. Somebody's coming out of college, essentially. Mm-hmm. Their needs are going to be different from, a young family with one on the way.
Gotcha. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it needs to be different. So you have to have access to a diverse product options to really make sure you're taking care of people. And that's what I can do on the broker side. So I have access to probably about 100 different lenders.
Nice. And so let's dive a little bit deeper, and actually I should say, let's be a little bit more specific. This month I'm working with vets. Right? This is Veterans Month. Mm-hmm. I'm doing everything to shine light on the whole entire process, and I think you have a special connection with that population. Correct?
Yeah, man. It's thankfully he is still with us. My grandfather, he served. I think he retired as an E8 in Anchorage, Alaska.
Nice.
On the Elmendorf. I think they changed the name now, but he's a long time veteran. I honestly, it's interesting for me because I watched him his entire life, not really understand how to maximize his VA benefit. Heck, he was so used to not having access to benefits that he just kind of shunned it away and just, kind of walked away with his tail between his legs, right? So that really kind of resonates with me because I know he's not the only one out there that feels like the government kind of turned their back on him, right? But honestly, if I'm being objective about everything related to the VA loan, the VA benefit, the VA benefit is one of the only things the government's gotten right for the veterans. I mean, it's such a great tool and wealth builder that's specific to veterans, and honestly the best product in the market, hands down.
I couldn't agree more. And I've told this story in my community quite a few times. My mom remarried, and her now husband is a vet, and helping them unlock the benefits within the VA has been my life for the past, almost year now. Yeah. And we're at that spot where home ownership is on the table, and congratulations, guys. They'll be in their home by the end of next month. And it's all through the VA arm and really understanding that process, and which is why it's so important for us to have these types of conversations. So from your perspective as a broker, how do you provide value to our vets?
Well, I think number one, if kind of going back to that broker-banker relationship, what's really important to understand that is how different lenders dictate their rules for the lending that they provide for the customers. So what I mean by that is there's a word or a term that we have in the industry called overlays, which is realistically, overlays are considered additional rules on top of whatever the baseline guidelines are that are set by our investors. So for instance, if we're talking about the VA loan limit or loan amount, that actually increased this year to about 720, which is like conforming limits in the industry.
Wait, slow down. Conforming loan limits. Let's dive into that a little deeper and put some meaning.
Sure. So conforming loan limits, essentially everything under 720, 200, and 720 and 200 and under is considered conforming. If you go $1 over that amount, it's now goes to a different category called a jumbo loan.
Got you.
In addition to that, and again, not to get too much in the weeds on this, but it's important to understand, conforming limits can change if you live in a high cost area. So think like certain parts of California, like LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, Brooklyn, New York, high cost areas. That loan limit goes just under like 1.1 million.
Do we see that in any of our Arizona markets, such as PV, Scottsdale? Do we have those conforming limits there?
Conforming limits are going to be there, not the high cost area that we're considering. You know, and that there's a ton of things that go into high cost, but you know, I'll let the listeners kind of dig into that a little bit more. But just to differentiate that, the advantage that I have as a broker. I've got access to, again, 100 different lenders, and specifically one of my favorite VA lenders doesn't have a cap on the loan limit. And that's a very powerful tool. So what happened was back in 2019, there's an act that Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act.
That's a mouthful.
That's a lot. It's a lot. So they had two different provisions that they made essentially. One of which they helped essentially assign a specific presumption that all veterans that stayed within a certain area within Vietnam and demilitarized Korea, they presumed that they had exposure to Agent Orange.
Gotcha.
So it kind of helps with VA benefits on that side of things. But most importantly, they removed that limit or that cap when it comes to the conforming limit for the loan amount. So a banker wouldn't necessarily have access to that because they have overlays in place that prevent those things. The access that I have, and really the biggest advantage is having access to lenders that a lot of them don't really have a ton of overlays. Minimum FICO score is typically going to be 580, but now I'm able to cast a broader net on the veterans I work with because, you know, we're not all cut from the same cloth and we have our own set of circumstances.
Right, so with regards to VA lending, talk about some of the VA benefits from the standpoint of the loan. Like, what are the benefits of a VA loan?
Sure. So 100% financing, purchase or refinance, no mortgage insurance, which is a big factor.
BMI is gone.
None. Looser income guidelines.
Meaning?
So you could carry more debt than the average Joe essentially can.
Is it kind of consistent with FHA, or is it better than FHA from the standpoint of looseness?
I think it's probably extremely close, right? They have like mirroring guidelines or mirroring products because they're both government loans. So they are fairly similar in that route. But the difference with FHA, I believe it was 2011. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was 2011 or 2013, where officially all FHA mortgages, the mortgage insurance was there for the entire life of the loan. So that's probably the biggest difference between FHA and VA. So think about that, right? Let's say you never refinance, you never touch your loan again, that mortgage insurance that you're just kind of giving money away to whoever lender you're with, that's going to be there until you refinance, right? So VA, that's completely waived. It's not there anymore.
As always, Aaron, it's good to sit down and have great conversations with you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Aaron, how can people find you?
So you can find me online, my Facebook business page, Aaron Edwards, Mortgage Consultant.
or Instagram, Aaron Edwards LO, or shoot me an email, aaronedwards@barrettfinancial.com.
All right, guys. As always, thank you again for joining us. See you guys next week.